Hello everyone and welcome to the Cake Sculptress 3D Grinch cake. Now this cake is a smashing little cake if you want to not use too much cake but still make it look amazing. The main body will be cake. In this tutorial I make him without his Santa suit, then with his Santa suit. Enjoy. This is the structure I'm using today. A nice square board. And all you're going to need is another little board for the Grinch's head. Now, I'm using 6-inch cakes in this cake and just buttercream. I actually made this cake as a Christmas gift to my hairdresser, so it's not too big a cake for me. And it was really good fun. And I didn't want to give her too much cake because it was just a small gift anyway. It was still quite a big cake, but you know what I mean. So I'm just putting some buttercream on my board after I've made my board all food safe and my steel rod, etc., etc. Little feet underneath the board so the steel rod doesn't touch anyone's tables. So here's my little 6-inch cakes, and I make a little slat in each one, pop some buttercream in them, in the slat, and wrap it around the dowel. And this is going to be the body of the Grinch. This little piece fell off, so I'm just going to use some of the buttercream to stick it back on. It was sticking to my greaseproof paper when I took it out. So once we've done that, we pop it on, and then we're going to put, I put jam and some buttercream, of course, green for Grinch, onto the cakes as well. And there is, I think there was 3 little cakes. Just showing you some measurements. Yeah. Oh, there's more than 3. What am I saying? This one's, I've done them all different. So the widest is his stomach at the bottom because he's sitting. So this is the 6-inch ones. And then I go up to, we'll see the measurements as we go along. I'm just adding some jam on to the back of one cake, and then I'm going to pop it on top when the other one's buttercreamed. Now I could have halved all of these layers again, but it was just a freebie to my lovely hairdresser for her Christmas gift. So for time and everything, I just done it like this, because they're not huge cakes anyway. So what we want is lower, fatter, wider at the bottom for his bottom and his tummy. And then you want the cake to slightly come in, so we'll use slightly smaller cakes. And then it gently goes out again for his shoulders. And then I'm left a space on top of that for his neck. So once we've got them all stacked, there we go. We are now going to buttercream the whole cake. Now for the head in this one, I'm not going to, I could have used cake, but I just thought it's a little gift. I'm not going to use cake. So this is another method to show you. You could use Rice Krispie treats here. I just went and used foil. So you use some silver foil and you make the shape of the head, which we're going to do now. It was good fun to make this little cake. I've never made the Grinch before. Now remember, if I like to just look at the picture on my iPad, and it's hand to eye coordination to find the shape and everything I want. But you can cut out your picture, remember, and make a wee template and draw it round on your figure and use it as a template, the picture. But I don't bother doing that. I just go ahead and whack it all on. Seems to work. I'm sure someday it won't. So it's a bit of like a cone head, this one. As you can see, it's nice and firm. And if you can see, there's a little bit piece of the dowel still sticking up through the board, and that's going to secure this head on the top. There's no glue or anything used like that. It's purely the buttercream. I haven't even used ganache this time, and the head didn't move, so it was brilliant. Once you get your shape, then we can start covering with fondant. So there we have our funny cone-shaped head. And now I'm going to cover the whole lot with white fondant and flip it over, and off we go. I'm getting better at this. Dexterity used to stop me from covering the whole cakes. This one isn't too big though, I must admit. But I am getting better at flipping it over and using all the fondant in one. So we just wrap it round and then cut off any excess and then start shaping it with our hands. So once we've got it all on, and I've got a little pointy bit at the top because he's got a hairy bit. Now to explain, I've made this cake two ways. I've made it naked, sounds funny, but it's just going to be all green. And then I decided the next morning, I think I'm going to put on a Santa outfit as well. So double whammy, we've done both. So I'm just marking out where roughly the eyes would go, the nose and the mouth. It looks a bit alien just now, doesn't it? But it's okay. It does work out. He's quite a hairy little lad as well, so I made him hairy. I did have the choice of making him the cartoon version or the film version. I think I plumped for the cartoon one. Ended up. So I started off with this shape of mouth. And when I was doing it, I thought, oh, I know he's grumpy, but it just looked a bit sad. So I'm just popping on a nose here. It's good to get a nose and the centre of your head to decide where everything else goes. A little bit of edible glue, not too much or it'll slide off. And your two little nostrils. We didn't need to faff about a lot with that one. Then a line down the middle for our centre and a line up. So I've decided to give this wee fellow arms, and I was going, I want to do something different. I don't want to just do the normal. So he's sitting down on his bottom. So I decided to make him lean back sort of idea with his hands sticking out the side, and then cross the legs at the front. Then I decided just now, well, when I was making the cake, that, I think these cheeks need to be a bit fatter. So maybe if you do make this with cake or Rice Krispies or foil, nobody's going to be eating the foil head unless they like to eat all the fondant off. So I made his cheeks bigger because it needs to be wider there. So made 2 cheeks a little bit wider, blend in slightly. Okay, so we've got our cheeks on, and then I thought, oh gosh, his mouth looks a bit flat now. So I decided to raise the mouth area up a bit as well. And then that's when I went, I think I'm going to give him a different sort of pose. So I took off his nose. Sounds funny, doesn't it? I took his nose off and I covered his mouth area and started that side again. So pop the nose back on. Now don't worry if it looks a bit unsmooth or a bit lumpy bumpy, because we're going to put hair on top and hair markings. So it's all going to be fine. It's just the way I make my cakes. So as a little tester, I thought, let's try some hair on to see if I think the cheeks is going to be large enough, which they were. So I had to put some Tylos through the fondant. And in fact, in some of the features, I have added in some white Saraceno model, just to give that stronger, sort of more workable piece for the features. And the fondant is just the Saraceno pasta top, which I had in my kitchen. and it works fine. So what we're going to do now is keep adding on some hair and the eyes. Round about the eyes is hairy and quite large, fluffy eyebrows. And he's scowling, remember. So once we've got his, sorry about that, eyebrows on, we're going to keep building up here around about his cheeks. This is where we're at just now. And then we are, voila. So little markings, that's the one I'm copying, but not the same. Oh, I have still the same mouth there, but I do change it. So we're going to, the markings on top, the head is there, and then we're going to do round about his body. Now, I actually thought he looked like a wee monkey. But I suppose when you think about it, he does, doesn't he? The Grinch looks a little bit like a monkey face. So I just thought that mouth just looked so down and sad. And I know he's a bit growly and all the rest of it. But then in the cartoon version, some of the cartoon versions, he's got a big smile on his face. But just to show you can add on anything you want to get the look that you want, of course. So I'm just adding some edible glue, and then I'm going to put in some white. And I'm really just putting white fondant in just now as a guidance to see where and what the eyes is going to look like. But I have to change that later on because, of course, when I spray it green, some of it goes on to the eyes as well. So now I've made my belly button on my Grinch and his little pot belly. And I did wonder if his tummy should have been fatter than that or no, but this is what we went with. So we're just going to add a centre line down the centre again and then start doing some hairy markings with a nice pointy tool. Remember, don't press too hard or you'll go right through into the cake. Aha, this is where I decided to change that mouth because I wasn't happy with it. So I added on another piece of fondant, made some hairy bits, and then took my tool and made a nice big sort of grin smile. Next, we're going to do that little tuft on top of his head. So he has got some hair protruding from the top, and curly pieces and that, which later gets covered anyway with his hat. Okay, so we're now going to add on some arms. Now I'm just using plastic dowels for the arms. So I made one at one side. It's just a plastic dowel. You'll see on the other side in a minute. I did think about having the other arm sticking out as well. When you'll see I've made little fingers around there. But I didn't concentrate a lot on the fingers just now because I need to put fondant underneath that. And it'll just break. So here's the other one I got. And I did bend the dowel a little. And I thought, oh no, it's for my hairdresser. I don't need to do that. I was going to get him holding his little bobble up like he does in some of the pictures. Then I said, no, we'll do exactly the same as what we've done in the other arm. So all I did was stick it into the cake and then put a lump of fondant underneath where his hand goes and secured it to the board. And then you cover the dowel with fondant and up at his arm as well to secure it into his body and make the hand shape and the long skinny nails. Now, this was a funny part because I was going to make just sticking out, sitting wide legs on the board, and then I thought my board's not long enough. I'm not. He's going to have very short legs. So then I said, right, okay, no fondant. We are going to use foil again, and I'm going to cross his legs because he sits in the chair a lot with his legs crossed. So I decided, yeah, I had a bit of fun with this because I don't know how many positions I had them in. Then I plumped for one. So what I done was tuck a bit under at the top there, as I showed you. Put edible glue on the bottom and edible glue on the top, and you slide it underneath your cake, and then it's going to rest on top of his other leg. Now you might say to start with, oh, that looks a bit silly. But it doesn't, because we're going to widen it and make it look realistic with hair and everything over the top as well. And it worked really well. And you know this, it didn't move. It was brilliant. So it's just another tip for you guys to have a go. There's no sticks or anything like that inside it. It worked like magic. So we now got to cover the whole of the two legs with a base colour coverage of fondant, and then we are going to put hairy legs on it and form his feet. So here we are forming all the hair over the legs. It looks better, doesn't it? And I'm adding some hair onto his arms. So here we go, forming his feet with his long nails. Now, when I made his feet, I did think, I think they should be maybe, if you look at the pictures, he's got quite big feet. But I just left the bear one, as I call, no clothes on, this length. But when I go to do the ones with the shoes, I do make them bigger with the shoes on. So from this top foot as well, I decided instead of hanging the bauble on his hand, like he does in some of the pictures, I'm going to hang it on his foot, just to have a little bit of cheekiness. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. But I done it. A red bauble. So now this is when it comes alive, when we start adding the colour. So this one's using a nice green and light green to go on to start with, and then you keep building it up and going into the seams a bit darker and cover it all with the green paint. And voila, here he goes. And I've added in his little eyes, got his bauble hanging from his toe. He looks pretty smart. That's him in the photos with his ribbon and everything on. Then I got up the next morning and decided, I'm going to add, he's got hair around his neck as well, I'm going to add on some red fondant and make him in his Santa outfit. So I quickly showed you how to do this, but you just add the red on the hat, simple to put on his arms. I made his coat more like a cloak, and I made his feet bigger. Shaped them better than that as well, this front one. Put white all around the Santa cloak, around his hat. down front of his jacket. And this is all I've done to make that, is make a nice long sausage. Take a spiky tool and pierce it a good couple of times to make it all look like fur. So to make it look like fur, we're going to use this little pointy tool and just pierce holes all over it, basically. A bit time consuming, but never mind, it's got to be done. And so we're going to make bands round his hat, round his ankles, down his jacket, round the back of the jacket, round his wrists. And it does finish off the piece of cake work very nicely. So once you've got all your white bits marked and stuck on, as you can see, it does make him look quite sweet. Cheeky little fellow. So we've got bigger feet on now because I thought his feet was a wee bit small and just a green cake, but it still looked good. But with his shoes, I wanted to make him a bit bigger foot-wise. If I had more room on the board, I probably would have made his claws and his hands a bit longer as well, because they're quite long, but it's fine. So I think this is the last piece of the white fur fondant that's to go on, and then he's basically finished. Just made his board red, and I'm going to give him a wee spray paint with finishing spray, and voila. So I do hope you enjoyed this quick sort of tutorial, and if it's Christmas time, have a merry, 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 merry Christmas. And if you do make a version or the same one, Mr. Grinch, please share and let me see them. I'd love to see me. Or please join me on my Facebook group, or you can message me if you want to see more tutorials or pop a little question, anything you want, guys. The bubble that I used there is the bubble that I used on his foot, and I made it white now, and I put it on his hat, and there he goes, all sparkling and all lovely. So cute and a joy to make. Thank you very much. If this is on YouTube, please follow or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Much appreciated. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.